Good evening, everybody. Welcome on this very sweltering evening to our webinar. Thank you so much for joining. I can imagine you've had a number of different distractions, but hopefully you're in a cool environment and that we can talk you through our webinar this evening, hosted by the National Institute of Teaching and NowTeach about career changing in the West Midlands. We have an hour blocked out for the webinar. We are aiming to get through our content as quickly as possible. We appreciate engaging and staying involved with something like this in an evening like this evening might be a little bit challenging. So we'll go through the content, but we will be able to go through some really good and really informative content. So do stick with us. My name's Rob. I'll be hosting this evening. Supporting us behind the scenes is the wonderful Joe, who's managing our technology tonight. Rachel will be helping us with the Q&As. I'll introduce you to the Q&A box in a few moments. And together we will work through how you can apply to, how you can be onboarded, considering your options going in from career changing into teaching. This is all about designed to help you prepare for the next stage in your career transition into teaching. So we'll cover a lot of great content, I can promise you that. I'm delighted to be joined today by two colleagues. What wonderful pictures. We've got Aisha, who's our recruitment specialist here at NowTeach, and Mark, who's the associate head of partnerships at the National Institute of Teaching. Both Aisha and Mark will be sharing their insights into the support available from both the National Institute as a training provider and NowTeach, a charity that supports career changers transition into secondary school teaching. They'll be on hand this evening to talk through a number of different pertinent points that will help you in your career change and give you some insight information that you won't be able to get elsewhere. If you do have any questions, I alluded to a Q&A box a little bit earlier. As you can see on your screen, we do have a Q&A box. It's labeled Q&A, where you can pop in your questions. I will have access to that throughout the session and we'll be able to pull up any questions and ask them to my panelists or be able to answer them directly. Some of the questions that might be a little bit more specific and might be not as pertinent to the rest of our audience, Rachel will be able to answer in the background. So yeah, hopefully we will inspire you to ask a few questions that we can work through this evening. So let me give you a little bit of a background information to NowTeach. NowTeach is a charity that we feel we have a unique solution to the teacher shortage and to attract experienced professionals to retrain as teachers and helping them stay in the profession for the long term. So we were founded in 2017 when our founder was 58. She was applying for teacher training with her daughter who was going through a graduate route and found it wasn't as easy as she would hope, being a more experienced and successful professional. So that individual was Lucy Kellaway. She founded a charity, and now we have something like 1,500 career changers that are in our network that support each other. We support them to bring the benefit of their professional experience into the classroom to impact those students that need it the most. So that's NowTeach. I'm now going to hand over to Aisha, who will talk you through why our unique partnership with the National Institute makes such a strong partnership for aspiring teachers. Aisha, hi. Many of the people joining us today may be exploring different training options, maybe different routes. Could you share with us what makes the National Institute of Teaching, alongside the support offered by NowTeach, such a unique and inspirational opportunity for those considering a career in teaching?
Great, thanks, Rob. Hi, everyone. So I'm really pleased to be joining you this evening and talking to you a little bit about why you should join us, especially us being NowTeach and joining NIoT, the National Institute of Teaching, as part of initial teacher training. So I know there's some things on the board there, so I'm just going to summarize it for you. So first of all, we've got a really unique program at the moment where we are dedicated to increasing diversity in initial teacher training. And I'd like to think that it's not just narrowed down to this program that we're doing at the moment. It is something that both organizations, Now Teach and NIoT, are very, very sort of passionate about. So this is something that we're trying to encourage more people of different ethnicities to join initial teacher training. You will be receiving, as part of Now Teachers Remit, you'll be receiving tailored support at each single stage of your teacher training journey, whether you're just starting to think about teacher training or whether you need support with applications or interviews or anything like that, or even when you've already got a place for teacher training and you're just about to start, and even during your teacher training years, you'll be able to have that tailored support and that one-to-one support with Now Teach. You'd be able to join a supportive community of aspiring and experienced teachers. And this is one of actually our, as Now Teach, it's one of the things that sets us apart from other organizations. And I should mention as well, I think Rob already alluded to it, that we are the only organization that's dedicated to helping people actually change their career and enter teaching. So even if you're a little bit older or you've spent majority of your life in a different industry, we are the only organization that gives you tailored support. And part of our offer to you is you'll be able to join a supportive community of aspiring and experienced teachers who understand what you're going through and understand your journey every step of the way. This is a great community of teachers who have, just like yourself, made the change into teaching, and you'll always definitely find someone who's got a similar background to yourself, maybe come from a similar industry, maybe applying to similar or the same training to support each other and answer any questions. Now, from NIOT's perspective, and I know Mark will talk a bit more about this later, but NIOT is an outstanding teacher training organization, and it is really, really well known in terms of things like their research and their initial teacher training program and their tutors. So it's something that when you've got NIOT and Now Teach together, you will be unstoppable. So that is why you should hopefully join us. Um, yeah, thank you.
That's great, Aisha. We should definitely get that quote and put it in a brochure. That's fantastic. Unstoppable together. That sounds great. And just to build on something that you touched on, the average age of our network at the moment is 48. We have experienced professionals that have transitioned into teaching from 36 different industries. We have candidates that have joined us up and down the country, right the way from Plymouth up to Middlesbrough, to Sunderland. And we're very fortunate to be working with the National Institute and have an awful lot of our Now teachers that are working with Mark and his colleagues up and down the country. So that unique partnership is something we'd love to point you towards. So how do I become a Now teacher? Thank you, Aisha. That was a great intro. Hopefully you've inspired people to make that next step. So let's think about, for those of us joining today, what is the next step? How do I get started? How do I start the process to become a secondary school teacher and a Now teacher with Now Teach?
Yeah. So the next step, or the first step, I should say, is something that's really, really simple, and we've tried to make it as simple as possible. So if you look on the board at the moment, this is basically the homepage of our website, Now Teach. So you can just do a quick Google search, and we're probably the first one that comes up if you type in Now Teach. And if you just look on the right-hand side, there's a box around the words register today. So if you click on that, you'll be asked a few short questions just about your experience, basic information like your name, date of birth, email address, and what the website will do, it will just do a quick calculation to see if you're eligible for teacher training or not. And I think majority of people who start thinking about teacher training, they already maybe have a good idea of what the requirements are. So more often than not, you will be eligible, hopefully, and you'll be able to register. So as soon as you do that, that should take no more than 5 minutes. Then basically you just sit back, relax, and you wait for your career change specialist to get in touch with you. And that will be either myself or three of my wonderful colleagues as well. So, and then we will tell you, we will support you on your next steps. But that's the first step.
That's fantastic, Aisha. Thank you. And yeah, I'd recommend you do it. Hit register. Have a look. Talk to us. We can provide you with some advice, insight, and guidance as to how to make your maybe your ambitions, your idea, your thoughts about becoming a secondary school teacher. We can inform your journey and pay you with the right information and insight to transition into teaching. Aisha, I'm going to invite you back in a few moments because you deal with a large caseload of candidates, as we call them, that you're supporting to make that transition. One of the questions that I know you shared with me earlier that a lot of candidates ask is, what are the qualifications? How do I become a teacher? Lots of our now teachers haven't been anywhere near a school or potentially a classroom as a student for many moons. It might be years since they've graduated and gone into sort of a professional career. Would you be able to talk us through the training options that are available and explain what participants can expect to achieve at the end of their initial training program?
Yep, sure. Thanks very much. So it's interesting because I have seen quite a shift in sort of teacher training and the different options that are available for the from the last, I don't know, maybe 5 to 10 years. So I was a teacher as well for 10 years. And when I applied, there was basically only one main training option, which was the university-based training option. And you can see that on the board, the first bullet point, university-based with a school placement. Traditionally, sometimes it's known as a PGCE. So that was the main sort of training option that there was back then. Now there is the school-based skit and provider routes. So there's actually two main options to get into teaching. We still have the university-based route, and now we have the school-based route. And I'm just going to briefly explain what the difference is so that if anybody's thinking about applying, they can kind of make an informed decision. So the university-based route, it is basically what it says on the tin. You spend around 80% of your time at university, and you would be learning about the theory of education, and you'll be going to lectures and seminars. You'll probably have some essays to write and some sort of, gosh, I think the heat is frying my brain. I just lost my train of thought. Sorry. Um, you'll basically have assignments. That's the word I'm looking for. You'd have assignments, and you spend around 20% of your time. That would be around one day of the week where you'll go into a school during a school placement, and you will basically be able to observe fellow teachers, students, and then eventually you will be teaching as well in your school placement. So that's the university-based route. And the school-based route, the skip-based route, is basically almost like the opposite. You spend most of your time, 80% of your time in your school that you're being placed in, and then you spend 20% of your time at a university sort of classroom-based lecture and a seminar and that kind of thing. And I'd say that you have to choose what's right for you. Some people do like the university-based route. You know, it reminds them of university, or it's something that they've been through before. It's familiar, you know, after they've done their degree and postgraduate or master's. So a lot of people do choose that route. And then on the other side, there are people who choose a school-based route because they prefer something that's a bit more hands-on, that is a bit more like work on the sorry, get experience on the job type thing. So it's completely up to you. And a lot of candidates do come to us and they say, well, which one should I choose? Now, unfortunately, as much as we love to help, we can't make that decision for you. It purely depends on yourself, your preferences, and your circumstances. But I would say as well, which a lot of candidates do ask, is there one that's better than the other? No, there isn't. You can choose either or, and you know, they are basically the same. One of them will not be giving you an upper hand or anything like that. In terms of qualifications, now this is where you have a little bit of variation. So with qualifications, you could get the QTS and the PGCE. So I'm going to quickly talk you through those. So the QTS, which is Qualified Teacher Status, is the main qualification that you need to be able to teach in the UK. That is compulsory, mandatory. Without this, you cannot be a qualified teacher in the UK. The PGCE is a certificate in education. It's not compulsory to qualify as a teacher. However, lots of training providers such as NIoT actually have a great two-in-one package where they give you at the end of your training year both a QTS and a PGCE, which is great because an extra qualification in the PGCE never hurts as long as you've got the QTS. So what you want to stay away from is, I would say, there are very few, although there are some that I have seen, there are very few providers which still only have options for just the PGCE. I would stay away from those because what you would, unless you want to, obviously, but what would happen after that is after you complete your PGCE, which is 1 year, you would have to do an additional qualification. That obviously takes more time, more finances, that kind of thing. So always I tell my candidates to make sure that what they're applying for is either a course that has QTS and PGCE together, or there are even just QTS courses as well. But please try and stay away from simply a PG.
I'm going to invite Mark in a few moments. Mark, I know former teacher yourself, you've recruited, I'm going to say hundreds, if not thousands of prospective teachers coming into the National Institute of Teaching, or NIoT as we affectionately refer to it. I just wondered from your experience within the profession, but also as from a recruitment perspective, if someone's still unsure what's right for them, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, thanks, Rob, and good evening, everyone. I think, Aisha has said a lot and hit the nail on the head by and large in terms of it being a very personal decision to you. And I think in teaching, one of the kind of key elements to success in terms of career development and progressing into the profession is that ability to reflect and to do a little bit of self-evaluation. So it can sometimes help to see that as your first exercise in doing that. So know yourself, I suppose, before you know what your best route into teaching is. And I think that's very important because it's important to acknowledge the fact that training to teach is a challenge. There are multiple priorities that you will be juggling, not least within your life and within the training. So it has to be something that works for you and for your setup. So I think that's really vital. So, probably sit down, write down what really matters to you, what's important in your life at this particular stage. Is there anything on the horizon that might be coming up? Because, believe it or not, there's real flexibility in terms of the routes into training. So it's possible to train part-time, for example, which can be really useful for people who have, busy commitments outside of work and outside of training. So that would probably be my number one point to make on that. And I think, again, Aisha said it, talk to people, seek out that advice. If appropriate, take yourself to a school, reach out to a school or multiple schools. If that works with your schedule, fantastic. Talk to people, hear about their experience, hear about people who are living it. You might be able to connect with trainees. And within reason, and to the extent that you're able to do that, just find out the best route for you, but do draw on all the resources and all the support that are available, including, as Aisha said, your career change advisor at Now Teach.
That's wonderful, Mark. Thank you. Yeah, I'm unlike you or Aisha. I've never been a teacher, but I will be a teacher at some point. So I will career change into it. And when I do, I've been fortunate enough to sit in a number of calls with Aisha and Joe and Rach and the kind of the career change team, and they're really great at having that kind of open space to have a conversation to say, oh, I'm thinking about this. I'm not too sure on that. What does this look like? We won't be able to do it for you, but we will be able to empower you with the right information, guidance, and insight to make a decision that's based on your own personal requirements and tailored needs. And it's great that so many of our now teachers are working or studying with the National Institute. And the movement that is Now Teach has got so many different people that are happy to provide that insight. So those 2025 cohort are buddying or mentoring or supporting those that are coming through for the 2026 to help them make the right decision. As much as we want you to be a teacher, as much as we think it's a very worthwhile career and something that is great to do and can have a massive impact on the schools, the society, and the children that you serve, it needs to be right, and it doesn't help anybody to go into these kind of training schemes without a clear understanding of your own training preferences, but also of what to expect when you're in the classroom. So we can help you work through that. That's brilliant, Mark. Thank you for that. Aisha, you touched on some of that that sort of eligibility requirement to train, and I guess for our career changers who have been out of education for a while, that kind of entry requirement might be a really nice segue to recap on that. So, would you just be able to kind of take us through that entry requirement, please?
Yeah, of course. So I think what we need to remember, and this is something that some candidates are sometimes a little bit surprised to kind of know, is that because teacher training is very much a program, by the government has set their own eligibility criteria, and that's something that doesn't really vary from training provider to training provider. It's just a fact that the government has put out there, and it's something that we can't control. So the criteria set by the government is candidates must have a GCSE Maths and English at minimum grade C, which is now a 4 or above, or they can have equivalent qualifications. So I'll very briefly touch on that in case it's relevant for anyone attending today. But equivalent basically means that sometimes if you have qualifications from a different country and you did your GCSEs there, you still might meet that eligibility criteria. You will just need to apply for an ENIC statement. And that ENIC statement, and that's something again, we will guide you through every step of the way. We will send you the correct link and we will help you with that. The ENIC statement will show whether you've got qualifications which are equivalent to the British qualifications. If they are not, and you don't have GCSEs or equivalencies, you may be required to sit an equivalency test, which again is a sort of short GCSE style maths or English test that will enable you to hopefully get a C or above, and you will be then eligible. So that's one of the criteria set by the government. And the second one is you must have an undergraduate degree. So teacher training is basically a postgraduate qualification. That means that everybody must have an undergraduate degree in whatever subject, and then they can apply for teacher training. That is what it is. And if we go a little bit further, there's more criteria when you want to teach a certain subject. And of course, this is relevant for ourselves at Now Teach and NIoT at the moment because we support people going into secondary school. So secondary school, when you are specializing in a subject, you must have either an honors degree in that subject, an A level in that subject, or experience. So it's a little bit flexible there. So for example, if you would like to teach maths, you either must have an honors degree in maths. If you don't, you must, if you don't have that, you must have an A level in maths. If you don't have an A level in maths, you might have 10 to 15 years of experience in a different industry where maths was heavily a part of your role. So all these things are consideration. Of course, this eligibility criteria in terms of subjects, I've seen that some providers are a little bit flexible on. So some providers might be okay with just experience and not an A level or a degree in that subject. However, some providers might be a bit strict and say, no, you must have a degree or you must have an A level. So it's definitely worth checking out the websites of each provider that you wish to apply to understand what their criteria is. And if you don't know, or if you're still unsure, just like Mark has mentioned, there's no harm to reach out to providers. In fact, providers, in my experience, they really appreciate it when people reach out to them and get clarification on things. So if you're not sure, send them an email and I'm sure that they'll be happy to help you.
That's great, Aisha. Yeah, if in doubt, ask. Mark, I'm going to invite you to contribute. We've worked with you for a couple of years now. Lots of Now Teachers working with the National Institute. You've got some really kind of holistic and empowering processes and eligibility for candidates. Would you like to just to add anything that would be helpful for our audience to know?
Yeah, of course. A few points around eligibility and then just a couple of other helpful pointers, if that's okay, Rob. I think, again, Aisha's said some absolutely on the money things there. Obviously, the Department for Education have their hard and fast eligibility criteria, which all providers have to adhere to. There are some, I suppose, areas of flexibility, and I think the easiest way to navigate those, as Aisha said, is to reach out. So we've got a team of 2 people in the South and West region of the NIoT, which covers the West Midlands, who are on hand to field any of those questions. So you can reach out to us and ask, I'm unsure about this. Guidance on our website as well, but sometimes that can be a little bit tricky to understand depending on where you're coming from. So do reach out and ask is one thing I'd say. And a couple of other sort of important points around this, I suppose, are um, another reason why it's sensible to reach out to providers. Not all subjects are necessarily available locally. A lot of your core subjects will be the ones that you might expect, but if you're thinking of training to teach in something sort of outside of that core set of subjects, then it's worth reaching out and checking in just to ensure that your chosen provider is providing those subjects as training options. I think placement school, so that's a little way down the line. But if you're weighing up applying and you've set your sights on a particular provider, do reach out and just ask the question about placement schools and listen carefully to their answer because it will be nuanced and they will talk to you not necessarily about specific schools, but about maybe groups of school or school trusts that they're working with, and they'll tell you important things that will matter about that. From our perspective as well, so Aisha mentioned those equivalency tests. So if you don't currently possess a GCSE or a set of GCSEs that would enable you to train in the subject that you've chosen, then yes, currently there are equivalency tests provided by outside agencies and profit-making companies. We, as the National Institute, are looking to bring that in-house. So that's a change that's incoming. So we hope to be able to offer in-house equivalency, GCSE equivalency tests, which will be more affordable than options from private providers. So that's not yet in place, but we're bringing that in relatively soon. And yeah, and just to reassure everybody that there is huge amounts of support available. So if in doubt, reach out, Rob.
If in doubt, oh, Mark, that's a catchphrase. I love that. Thank you for that. Brilliant. Thank you. Lovely. Thanks, Aisha. Thanks, Mark. Much appreciated. Joe, if we move on the slides, I think we've just got an overview here of the subjects that NowTeach particularly support. The National Institute is a much broader provider of primary and I'm sure multiple other subjects that come through on that. But our real focus at NowTeach is predominantly around what I suppose the Department for Education has characterised as shortage subjects, and they're listed there that we're working with in secondary schools. Brilliant. Okay, so Mark, you alluded to funding there, so I might move us on to the next slide, and we start to think about the financial support that's available. Clearly, a career change has a number of different challenges, a number of different considerations, one of them being finance. Leaving a fully paid role, unless you're going into an apprenticeship or directly into a school with a job, you may not get a salary and you'll need to fund some training costs. So Aisha, maybe in the first instance, would you be able to talk me through, and actually all of our audience, not just me, that would be selfish, but talk us through the bursaries and scholarships that candidates may well be eligible for?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So if you look on the board there, that is the most up-to-date information that we've got that the government has put out for which subjects are eligible for bursary and which subjects are eligible for scholarship. Now, if we look at the subjects, so as Rob had mentioned previously, it is very much about what we call shortage subjects, or subjects that require teachers, but we have a lack of teachers in the UK. So a bursary or a scholarship is kind of an incentive almost for those types of subjects. And you can see that the bursary amount very much varies depending on which subject that you have chosen. So for example, biology and geography are about 5,000, and there's some that are 20, goes up to 29,000. Again, for both a bursary and a scholarship, again, you need to meet certain eligibility criteria set by the government. Again, it's things such as you need to be eligible for your subject, you need to maybe have an honours degree, you need to be eligible for student finance in the UK, you either need to be a citizen or somehow be eligible for the support from the government and things like that. And just bear in mind, just a couple of things that to bear in mind. Bursaries are applied automatically. So if you do get a place and you've been told by your provider that you are eligible for a bursary, that will start coming into your account automatically once you start the course. A scholarship is something that you have to apply separately for. And as you can understand, things like scholarships and bursaries, they are places that are taken up quite quickly. And it's just something to keep in mind. And also something else to keep in mind, because we do get this question quite often, is can I get both a bursary and a scholarship? That would be amazing, wouldn't it? I think I would apply for teacher training if that was the case, but unfortunately, you can get either or. Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, Aisha. Yeah, you can't do it twice. Perfect. Mark, thank you for sort of sharing about some of the equivalency sort of funding that will be coming down the road from a National Institute perspective. Anything else that you'd like to add on in terms of guidance or benefits or additional support that the National Institute might like to touch on?
Not massive amounts, to be completely honest, Rob. I think, again, Aisha has said a lot of the really relevant stuff around scholarships and bursaries, including the fact that you have to ensure that you apply for the scholarship. So that's an interesting one. Bursaries are applied without having to go through the application process. I think in terms of what we can provide on the ground, in the rare instance that you might have a challenging commute to a placement school, then there is, and I say, the unlikely event, because by and large, all of our trainees are placed within a very easy commute. Sometimes circumstances change. So, if, for example, a trainee has to relocate or we have, there are just complicating factors, then we can provide support on a case-by-case basis in order to get you to your placement school if that's something that you require. But apart from that, and over and above what's available from student finance and from the learned societies that apply the scholarships, there's nothing really that we do offer on top of that.
Great. That's lovely, Mark. Thank you. I mean, it's great to hear. I mean, school placements are really important. So being in commutable distance or having that support if circumstances change and you need to move away, that's really helpful to know. Thank you for that. Just a shout out to audience. I can see some great questions that are coming through that we will get to in due course. Sorry, Joe, I'm playing havoc with your slides going back and forth. But let's go to the next one. So yeah, let's think about the transition and what support that you may well get, what the practicalities and support that you might need to become a teacher. Aisha, I'll just invite you back in. Could you tell us more about the support available through NowTeach and for those who join the programme, and what makes this experience different from pursuing a career change without NowTeach or through the National Institute?
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Really sorry. Can we swap to the other slide, please? Thank you so much. So when we're looking at what we can offer you at NowTeach, I know at the beginning I did sort of mention quite a few different things, but this is a really nice way to kind of show everything that you get as part of being a member of NowTeach and becoming a NowTeacher. So in the middle there, one of our main things, like I said, which sets us apart from other organizations, is a peer network connected with hundreds of like-minded career changers who are ready to support you, who relate to you, and you will always find someone who has similar life experiences to yourself or coming from a similar background to yourself. So as part of this peer network, you will have belonging and you'll have representation. So again, as we mentioned, we really do celebrate diversity. So in a network of hundreds and hundreds of career changes, you will always be sort of celebrated and feel like you belong, no matter what your background is. We'll be able to help your life experience into impact. So what that means is, some people, when they want to be a teacher, they get concerned that all their life experience or all their previous career experience will go to waste. And that's simply not the case. We're here to help you turn your skills that you've already got and make them sort of make them classroom ready. So sometimes we don't understand that the skills that you get in other industries or in your life can actually be skills that make you a really amazing teacher. So we're here to help you with that as well. And as I mentioned previously, you'll be getting one-to-one support with myself or with your other career change specialist, depending on who you are assigned to. You'll be having you'll get a reflective space where you can sort of think about your identity as a teacher. You'll have access to the Now Teach team. So you don't just have access to career change specialists um, or Now Teachers. You also have access to Now Teachers if you require it or if you need it, who can mentor and support you and advise you. So, if you'd like some support, you can come to us, and we will always be happy to try and connect you with a Now Teacher who'd be able to support you. You'll get lots and lots of resources as well to help you on your teacher training journey. And you will also get a specially curated and made pre-start module, which is designed to help you build confidence and get a head start. So this pre-start module, in a nutshell, it's just something that helps you ground yourself before initial teacher training, talks you through certain scenarios, and just basically helps you prepare for the classroom. And it's an amazing piece of work that we're doing. And to be honest, as someone who was a teacher and who did initial teacher training, it would have been amazing to have something like the pre-start module beforehand, so that it could really help me before I go into teaching. So that is us in a nutshell. And what I'd really like to mention, sorry, just one more thing, is that I'm sure Rob has already mentioned this at the beginning, but Now Teach, just a reminder, we are an educational charity. So we're really, really pleased to offer our candidates all of this and all of our support free of charge. We still get candidates who come to us and they ask me, oh, what's the cost of support or what's the cost of the network? But we're really pleased to be able to offer this all free of charge.
That's wonderful, Aisha. Thank you. Yeah, so this is all of this support is designed to complement the wonderful provision you'll get from your initial teacher training, which is probably a great place to invite Mark to take the stage with an overview of the National Institute's offer. So, Mark, could you very kindly walk us through your slide, please?
Yeah, pleasure, of course, Rob. So, I'll talk to the slide and then I'll give you a few other points that are relevant just now. So, the National Institute of Teaching has been around for a little while, but not as long as you might imagine. I heard the other day, we're actually the second biggest teacher training provider nationally, which is really interesting because I think 4 years, we've been going 4 years. So, it's been really, really rapid growth. But how's that been sustainable? Well, we started off with a really strong base. So we were founded by four of the country's leading academy trusts. So Harris in London, Outward Grange, Oasis Community Learning, and Star Academies. So all of those organizations have a background in teacher training, have run their own school-centered initial teacher training programs for a number of years, and therefore have networks of schools that they work with, and can draw on a great deal of expertise across the organisation. So there's a lot behind us as the National Institute of Teaching. Also important to note, we too are charitable in our outlook and our setup, because we were originally set up, and those four founding academy chains set up the National Institute of Teaching with the goal of creating a school system that nurtures the talents of teachers and leaders at all stages of their careers. So, as well as being an initial teacher training provider and a provider of professional development for teachers later on in their career, we are concerned by making the sector as a whole better. So we are working to improve everything across the board for all providers. So everything that we do is looking to get better, improve what we do, and to help support others do the same. So we're really altruistic in that. A big, big, big part of that is our research work. So the Department for Education works with us as a professional development laboratory essentially. So we have a huge research team that are looking into what works well, what are the best things to prepare people for a career in teaching, whether it's the curriculum or particular ways of delivering training. For example, something called intensive training and practice, which was a new development in initial teacher training just a few years ago. We piloted that, we created the framework and now everybody uses it. Importantly as well, in terms of our development, we've just been given new degree awarding powers, or NDAPs. So when you train with us and we award you with a PGCE, it will come directly from us. So that whole process from start to finish is with us. And then when you move on in your career and you become an early career teacher, we also provide support for that. And then later on down the line, professional qualifications, national professional qualifications, we provide those as well. So training with us, you're joining a journey really for your entire teaching career. And the final bullet point in there is just being part of a national cohort. So, like I said, the second biggest provider. However, because we work regionally, actually, if you take Birmingham and the West Midlands as an example, we are a relatively small provider in that area.
Mm.
A small provider with great links to a national organization that backs us with really good programs, but small in terms of you will have a medium-sized cohort of peers that you will get to know really, really well. That same group of people that you will join for training every Thursday at the campus, you'll get to know them really well over the course of the year. You'll share your successes, you'll share your challenges, you'll have a lovely time with them. And you'll have your tutor from us as well, who provides you support in school. And they'll have a cohort of up to 25 trainees that they'll be taking care of. So we get real personalized one-to-one support. So it's probably, in a nutshell, it's a large national organization, but with real personalized local support from us. And also the benefit of that huge amount of research that's going in every day into developing the best possible training for everybody, no matter where they are or what subject they want to teach. I think that just about covers it, Rob.
That's great, Mal. Thank you. And I might stick with you for a few moments if that's all right, because you mentioned that one-to-one support, and we've got a couple of questions that are kind of alluding to that. So maybe start with you, then I'll address a similar question to Aisha. But the one-to-one support, who does the trainee get that support from, and in what format? Is it within the school? Is it on the training days? Is it online outside of classroom? How does that support work and manifest itself?
Yeah, so there's a mixture in terms of modes of support. So if I try and describe them all one by one, that might be the most helpful. So you'll have your tutor from the National Institute of Teaching, who will be an experienced teacher and an experienced teacher educator who are no longer in the classroom because they're working full time for us. And their one aim is to support trainees in their development. So they will be delivering your training. They will be checking in with you, so you'll have formal catch-ups with them. They'll be visiting you in school, seeing you teach. They'll be talking to your colleagues in school, and ensuring that you're getting the best experience with your training. And they'll be a go-to person, so you can genuinely pick up the phone to them. Um, you know, and they will thank me for saying this down the line because they do love to have that personal interaction with trainees. So genuinely, they're there at the end of a phone. If you're having something you're not sure about, you can pick up the phone and say, "Hey, can you tell me what to do? Can you give me a support?" So I'd say that's your number one person with us. Then in school, you'll have your mentor, so your in-school mentor, and that's somebody who has been trained. So we'll have given them training, or they may well be a very experienced colleague who's been doing it for years and years. And again, they'll know the school and the pupils and probably the classes and the lessons that you will be teaching as part of your training inside out. So they'll be your go-to person in school. They will be observing you. You might be taking some of their classes. You'll be able to go to them. You'll develop a great relationship. And again, on a day-to-day basis, those 4 days that you're in school as part of your training, you'll be able to talk to them and other colleagues, but they'll be your formal link. And you will meet them for 1 hour per week, which will be protected time, can't be taken for anything else, just to go through your in-school training and development points and any goals and things like that. There's more beyond that. So we do, have well-being advisors within the National Institute of Teaching and support from, I think it's Bupa in terms of well-being. So again, it's a phone number you can pick up and talk to people. Or if you're having challenges, some people do. You can never know what's on the horizon or what life's going to throw at you. But we do have a support function within the National Institute of Teaching outside of that tutor who can, parachute in and provide you with additional support should it be required. I'd say it's the exception, but it's there for you if you need it.
It's great. It's nice to know it's there, even if you don't need it. That's great, Mark. Thank you. And then Aisha, we at Now Teach, we wouldn't profess to be able to be delivering initial teacher training, but what we are able to provide, I suppose, is that third space outside of there to connect with people from a similar background with a similar professional experience, and provide that holistic support for career changes that unique to their experience and their needs, that complements everything that Mark's just touched on. Would you like to just maybe give a bit of an overview on the support that we provide, thinking about the work that you do with your caseload to support people into teacher training, then the network team that provides support across ITT, and then into 3+ years of their career? How does that work from a Now Teach perspective?
Yeah, of course. Thank you. So, as I mentioned previously, when you first fill out an EOI form, you'll be assigned a career change specialist, and they will kind of get in touch with you for next steps. So I'd say until you actually apply for initial teacher training and hopefully get accepted onto a place and you accept that position, you are very much under sort of the guidance of the career change specialist team. Once you, and that is, sorry, let me just go back a little bit. And we've already looked a couple of times at the support that we offer, but again, a quick overview is basically we support you every single step of the way. We support you with whatever it is you may need as well. So you get that personalized support. We don't believe in a one size fits all. After we speak to you and get to know you a little bit, then we know how best to support you. So we would support you with, like we discussed, what subjects you'll be eligible to teach, which providers you might want to apply to. Again, we don't make decisions for you, but we give you all the information that you need to make an informed decision for yourself. And obviously, we are here to support you every step of the way. We then give you personal statement support. We give you application support. Once the interviews come in, we give you interview support in the form of practice interview questions and also mock interviews. And once you actually get accepted onto a place, we offer you support as well in case you want to talk through your offer and the conditions of your offer. And then once you accept a place, towards the end of the academic year, what we do is we hand you over to our amazing programs team. And what that means is that you are going to be officially welcomed into the Now Teach family for when you start your initial teacher training. That means that you'll have access to everything we spoke about. You'll have access to that amazing community of career changers. You'll have access to resources. You'll have access to our platform. You'll have access to webinars that are coming up. You'll have access to in-person events as well. So after you get accepted and you accept a place and you're due to start in September, we then hand you over to our programs team. That's not to say that if you ever want to speak to us again as your career change specialist that you can't. You definitely can. But this is just giving you an overview of how much support we actually give to our candidates. We've got, I wouldn't say a large team, but our whole team, we are all working in the best interest of our candidates. So you get support every step of the way.
That's wonderful. Thanks, thanks, Aisha. Yes, I suppose as long as you're a teacher, you have access to that support. So as Aisha mentioned, that's support with getting into and transitioning into ITT. It's progressing through ITT, complementing the support that Mark mentioned through the National Institute, and then progressively as you go into your career, maybe supporting and preparing or finding an ECT position or that kind of level of promotion, or starting to really leverage your background and your experience as a career changer to the betterment of your performance as a teacher and to the children and the school that you teach in. So my experience of working in this area for the last sort of 5 years is that It's an incredibly supportive and incredibly energizing area. It's tough, it's difficult, but that's not to say it's not worthwhile, and it's not incredibly rewarding. And having those support mechanisms inside and outside the classroom is really, really important, I think, for everyone concerned. And the one bit that I would touch upon is our career change network, which I think that kind of peer-to-peer support is really, really, I think, support is really helpful and is really impactful. We've got a summit at NowTeach. We get all of our Now Teachers, so hundreds of Now Teachers up and down the country, descend on London for a Saturday where we all get together. Lots of wonderful speakers, lots of great sharing of insight and inspirational stories, and really kind of thinking about how that hundreds of years worth of professional experience could collectively be utilised within the schools that our Now Teachers are working on. And I always remember talking to Lisa, who was buddied up with a slightly older Now Teacher called Kazarus, and talking through how they worked together, how they had a third space that they were both able to go into and have really open and frank conversations that really supported them coming through. And Lisa's first day when she was teaching a class, she popped a WhatsApp message out and just said, I'm not entirely sure the kids are getting in. I don't know if I could do this. And she said within 5 minutes, she had 56 replies from the Now Teach network saying that she's got this. And she said, not every lesson will go well, not every lesson will be great. But she said, knowing that there are people up and down the country who are looking to do the same was really, really motivating and really comforting to her. So that support, I think, is really important. So, yeah, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Aisha, for touching on that. We've got some questions coming through. So I'm going to, we've got 7 minutes to go. Won't be able to necessarily get through all of them, but what I would like to touch on, one of our candidates is particularly interested, maybe applying from overseas, international candidate. I'm going to maybe start with Aisha, maybe then come to Mark. But any recommendations or broader hints and tips from someone that's applying from abroad that would like to become a teacher in the UK? Aisha, any immediate thoughts, and then I'll pass over to Mark.
Yep, thank you. I'm just going to quickly scan the question that has come through. So I think they're really great questions, because we do get quite a few candidates who are outside of the UK or who have teaching experience outside of the UK, and they'd like to become a teacher in the UK. So we need to sort of look at what requirements they need to bring to the UK to be able to enter into initial teacher training. So in terms of route, so to address the first question, in terms of route, again, that's still very much on a case-by-case basis. If you are coming from outside of the UK and you get in touch with us and you'd like to enter initial teacher training within the UK, we would first ask you, like we do with our UK-based candidates, of your qualifications, your certifications, your work experience, that kind of thing. And then based on that, we would advise you on what the best route is. Although I would like to mention that a lot of our candidates from abroad do choose to do an initial teacher training course, which is a 1-year course that we are the one that we've been talking about, with a PGCE or QTS at the end of it. Some do ask about the QTS only route. So there is a QTS only assessment route that some teachers who've either been working as an unqualified teacher in the UK, or if you have come from abroad and you've been teaching from abroad, that is sometimes an option. However, again, that depends on the provider that you are applying for and the eligibility criteria around yourself. However, this actually leads me nicely into another question, which again is about what support is available for international students adjusting to the UK system. Again, what I would recommend is an initial teacher training course for overseas candidates, especially candidates who will be coming to the UK and settling down in the UK after being abroad for so many years, because the ITT year is a year, And like we've mentioned so many times before, you get, you'll be getting to know your colleagues on the course, you'll be getting to know your school, and you'll be getting to know other people as well. So it'd be great to have a whole year to settle into that UK school life, as opposed to kind of coming from a different country and then quickly doing a 6-week course or something like that. So in terms of support, the most supportive option would be to do an initial teacher training course, the 1-year course. And I'm just going to see if there's anything else I can answer from here.
No, I think you've given a really nice
Okay.
overview there, Aisha. I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? I think it's difficult to answer some of the questions too specifically because everyone's circumstances are slightly different. But I'd like to invite Mark in just to see if he's got any hints and tips that we can share with our international students. And then maybe I'll come back for your top tips, Aisha, before we close. So Mark, anything else to maybe add or touch on for those that are applying from abroad?
Yeah, of course. I've just had a quick look at the question. There's loads of relevant questions in there, so I think it's definitely worth spending some time looking at this one because I think, others will have similar questions potentially. So, one point which I don't think Aisha addressed was about previous teaching experience counting towards teacher training pathway. So there's one thing, an important thing to flag around that. If you have undertaken teaching qualifications overseas already, then that can negatively affect your eligibility for funding in this country. So if you've already gained a teaching qualification overseas, that can mean that you can't get funding to train in this country. So just one to flag. It might be that you've just had informal experience, so it's not an issue for you, but getting to teaching has more info about that. And I think the point about adjusting to the UK education system is an important one, definitely. Education and approaches to education are not uniform across the world, and there are different approaches, and we celebrate all of those. But I would say that, for example, a school-centered initial teacher training program does address that in the best possible way, in my opinion, in that it's full exposure. So you will be in a school from day one, and you will get to see what the policies, what the procedures, how people approach one another, how people work with colleagues, how collaboration works. And I think that can be a really good way to introduce you. And none of us get things right from day one, but it's a really great way to make rapid progress with all those in terms of adjusting to a new system and maybe new cultures as well. So yeah, conscious of time, so I'll probably cap it there, Rob.
Brilliant. That's great, Mark. Thank you. And I would urge any questions that any of our audience have outstanding and that we could help with, please do drop one of those expressions of interest through. Go to our website, get in touch with us, and we'll be able to help and support. Before we close, probably got the last 30 odd seconds before we'll bring it in. So I'm gonna stick with you, Mark, just because you're on the screen. But lovely to get your top tip for anyone that's applying for teacher training. What's the must? What must they do? What's going to be the inside rail that's going to make them a successful candidate?
Top tip, get into a school. If that's feasible for you and it works, reach out. Schools are happy to facilitate that. Say, look, I'm interested in doing this. Can I come in and spend a day? Well, that would be my top tip, Rob.
Brilliant. Thanks, Mark. Much appreciated. And what a lovely time of year to do it. Going for a sports day, see what it was the end of term. Could be a great experience. Thank you. Aisha, one top tip from you. What's your pearls of wisdom or words of wisdom that we can leave our audience with?
Yeah, it's always to ask for support. Please don't struggle in silence. Please don't think that you're alone. With our support, with NIoT, with your provider, anything, please do always ask for support. That could make or break the whole year. But yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks, Aisha. Much appreciated. Well, just to say thank you to your good self. Thank you to Mark. It's great to hear about all the wonderful opportunities at the National Institute. And Aisha, lovely to hear you talk so informatively and aspirationally about, or inspiringly about all the wonderful things that we do at Now Teach. And to our audience, thank you so much. I hope you found the session informative. I hope it helps to give a few insights for the next stage of your teaching journey. I hope it inspires you to get in touch with the team at Now Teach and fill in one of our expression of interest forms. If you have any further questions, don't hesitate to get in touch. But we wish you every success. Thank you for persevering with us in such a hot evening. Mark, I'll leave you to get back to the paddling pool. Aisha, hope the fan's still working for you. And I wish you all a lovely evening and all the best for the future. Thank you for joining us. Bye bye.